back to my channel. My name is Mariah if you are new here, and if you're not new here, welcome back. If you are not new here, this video might seem kind of random, but it's been something I've been thinking about filming for a while, so I wanted to film a 90-day update on a medication that I'm trying for migraine prevention. So I experience what's called acute migraine with aura. And what that means is acute migraine means it's not chronic. So in migraine world, chronic migraine is usually 15 or more headache days per month. So I do not have chronic migraine, but I do have migraine with aura. And what that means is before a migraine, you kind of have these things that are warning signs. They can be different for all people. Sometimes they can be tingling sensations. Sometimes they can just be a feeling of fatigue or tiredness or just feeling not right. For some people, they can be visual disturbances. And for me, that's what happens. So I'm going to actually insert a photo here and show you what I experience when I have a migraine with aura. So before my headache even kicks in, this is what I see. And so I'll start to see a little blind spot in the middle of my vision, and gradually over about 30 minutes or so, this spot will get bigger. And it'll take up almost my entire field of vision to where I could say I'm probably about 50% blind. So I can kind of see to the sides of this dot or the sides of this blob, and eventually after about 30 to 40 minutes it moves from one side of my vision to the other side, and eventually it'll be gone. And then after this is gone, my headache comes in. Now this is something I've experienced since I was in 6th grade, and so the first time it was very scary. Actually, the very first time it happened, I remember, because I was in math class and we were learning something where our teacher was writing on the board, and I remember this happened to me. I started feeling nauseous, I got a headache, and so I thought that maybe I was just allergic to dry erase markers. And so ever since then, the scent of dry erase markers sends me into a panic, and I get queasy when I smell dry erase markers just because I associate that with my very first migraine. What actually makes more sense is this is about the age where I entered puberty, and a lot of times women experience hormonal migraines, and migraines are more common in women because they are often hormone related, especially due to estrogen. So I have experienced them pretty much since I started puberty, and so I'm 28 years old now. I've had them for about 15 years. I finally saw a neurologist about a year and a half ago, and I had a very awful experience. He spent about 5 minutes with me each visit. Each time I went in there, he handed me a new medication. And these were called abortive medications. And abortive medications are medications you take at the onset of a headache. So for me, when I start to go blind or I see these visual disturbances, I would take an abortive medication, and it's supposed to stop the migraine in its track. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, and I have had really great success with them. However, I kind of was looking for more reasoning behind why I get migraines and just someone to kind of hear me out, and I've been trying to just investigate more natural ways to stop my migraines. I have found different books about preventing migraines, but for me, after tracking my migraines, looking at my calendars and food diaries over the years, I have pretty much determined that they are triggered by hormones. And because of that, that makes it tricky for me. I can't be most birth controls. I have to be careful with things that could fluctuate my hormones and things like that. When it comes to preventing migraines, a lot of people do try birth control or they try other hormone regulators, but for me, I'm very sensitive to that. So I had a very poor experience with my first neurologist. So finally I decided to seek out a different neurologist. I actually traveled about an hour and a half from my hometown to see a new neurologist, and she's fantastic. She spent over an hour with me on my first visit compared to 5 minutes at the other place. Took a very in-depth health history for me and kind of talked me through different options to prevent my migraines. So I don't have chronic migraine, so sometimes I feel silly even thinking about preventative medication because I do feel very grateful and lucky that I don't have migraines every single day. However, it is hard to plan life events and vacations and worry about work and things when I never know when one's going to pop up. because when one does pop up, like I said, I mean, I'm basically useless for at least an hour because I can't see anything. And then when my headache does come on, I just have a killer headache. I feel nauseous. I'm sensitive to light, and so I can't really get work done. So when I do have a migraine, I'm pretty much leaving work and going home and sleeping in a dark room. So I finally felt heard for the first time, and I went over my health history with my new neurologist, and because I was having at least 2 migraine with auras a month, she thought putting me on a preventative medication that would kind of calm down my brain activity that might help me have reduced migraines. And so that's what led me to Topiramate, or Topamax as it's called, like the brand name. So the Topamax is supposed to help reduce that brain activity and the hypersensitivity, because Topamax is actually a anti-seizure medication. However, for migraine prevention, you take it in a way lower dosage. And so that's kind of how it works to prevent the migraine from happening. So it's almost like if your migraine was going to start by having this drug in your body, those neurons and things aren't going to get fired up. And so the migraine is not going to progress into what it normally would. At least that's how my neurologist described it to me. So I was very excited that there was something that I could try. I also am someone that likes to do tons and tons of research before even starting a medication. So once I got prescribed, I went home. The first thing I did was I went to my migraine support group, and I searched through the group on other people's experience with this medication. And what I was seeing wasn't fantastic. It was kind of people loved it or it was awful. So one thing you might find if you ever research this drug is Topamax is sometimes called Dopamax, because some of the side effects can make you feel groggy, memory loss, like short-term memory loss, having trouble recalling words, and things like that. So I do want to preface this by saying this is in no way me advocating for this medication. I'm not trying to convince you to go on this medication. It is just me simply describing my experience on it, so that if you ever down the line are talking about this with your doctor, you know, videos like this might help you, because I know they helped me, especially when I've been looking into other migraine and like acne treatments. I like to turn to YouTube to see what other people's experiences are like, but you always have to do your own research and make your own educated decision. So what I was seeing wasn't great. So it took me about 2 weeks before I wanted to start. So ideally, the average dosage, or the ideal dosage, is about 100 milligrams. Something to keep in mind with this medication is they like to introduce you very slowly. So most doctors, from what I've researched and my experience personally, is slowly increasing your dosage over time. So in my personal experience, my doctor started me off at 25 milligrams for the first week, and then after the first week, I was supposed to bump up my dosage to 50 milligrams for the second week, and this would continue until I reached 100 milligrams. However, since I was only having a couple headache days a month, she said if I was seeing results at a lower dosage, I didn't need to bump up. And so I was thinking, okay, that's good to know, because I mean, if I can take it and see results at a lower dosage, that'd be great. So I did decide to just start the medication finally, and I kept track of my symptoms along the way just because I wanted to make sure I was documenting how I was feeling and things like that. So this is where I kind of started noticing some different side effects that I wanted to share with you, but then I'm also going to share my progress and let you know how it has helped my migraine. So I am going to pull out my notes and just to read some of the side effects that are known from this medication. Could be tiredness, drowsiness, dizziness, loss of coordination, tingling of the hands and feet, loss of appetite. My neurologist said you might taste things weirdly, like soda or carbonated beverages. Sometimes people have trouble concentrating or paying attention, slowed thinking, nervousness, anxiety. So just to keep an eye out on those kinds of things. And then another serious side effect to keep in mind is that sometimes people do experience suicidal thoughts. And so when I read some of those things, I started to get kind of nervous. But again, you always have to kind of weigh the pros and cons, or the benefits versus the negatives when starting any medication. And for me, I was at a point where I was just ready to see if this would help. So for my first week, I noted that I felt fatigue, and that was pretty much the only side effect that I felt. When you first start the medication, they usually suggest that you start it at nighttime. You take 1 pill before bed. So I would take a pill before bed, and then throughout the next day, I would usually feel pretty tired, but I also just hadn't been sleeping that great in general, so it's kind of hard for me to distinguish, is this just because I'm not sleeping that well, or is it because of the medication? So far so good. The first week went by fine. In the second week, I was feeling a little less tired. I did feel some numbness and tingling in my fingers about an hour after I took the pill, which is supposed to be a pretty common side effect, but that's all I was really noticing, like after I took the pill. But then I did note down that I had a couple like vertigo spells. I remember I was purchasing some hay bales at Lowe's because I was trying to put out some cute decorations on our front porch for fall. I remember I was putting these big hay bales into my trunk, and when I had set them down and kind of leaned my body forward, I kind of felt like almost like my brain like rattled back and forth. I just felt like really dizzy and like kind of like spinning for a second, and then it went away. But I thought that was kind of strange, and I definitely kind of considered that a side effect of the medication. And then I had something similar happen later that week too. So this was in the second week. Also during the second week, and this would be the week that I bumped up the medication to the 50 milligrams, I was feeling irritable, just kind of like snappy at people. So I was just kind of in a bad mood. I did notice some taste aversion to Mountain Dew, and that's like my favorite pop, my favorite soda, and I noticed it just like wasn't tasting good, so I noticed that. And that's about it for week 2. So I'm like, okay, I was kind of getting nervous about bumping up on my third week to the 75 milligrams, but I thought, you know what, I'm sure it'll be okay. Let me just start this next week. So I did about 2 days worth of bumping up to that 75 milligrams. And I remember there was one day I had very bad anxiety. Now I do have a history of having some anxiety, but more so over the last few months, it's been pretty manageable, where it's not an everyday occurrence. I don't normally have like panic attacks. Every once in a while I would have an anxiety attack like every couple months, but for the most part I was feeling good. However, when I did start to bump up to that next dosage, we were supposed to go to our friend's house, my fiance and I. We were supposed to go to our friend's house, and I remember just getting home from work, and my office is also like in a room with no windows, and like that whole day I was just feeling so trapped in my office that I could not wait to get home and get out of there. And when we got home and I just was thinking about leaving the house again to go see friends, I started freaking out, like almost like hyperventilating and crying and just like having a full-on anxiety attack. Didn't want to leave the house. So this is where I thought, okay, this is obviously a side effect of the medication. And at this point I decided to not continue at the 75 milligrams. I decided to actually go back to the 50 milligrams and just stay there, because I did have a follow-up with my neurologist in about 2 weeks from this time. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna stay at this 50 milligrams and wait till I talk to her and see what she thinks. So over the next couple weeks, I stayed at this 50 milligrams and things did stabilize. I had maybe a little bit of anxiety here and there, but my mood swings disappeared, irritability was gone, was still feeling a little tired, but overall those kind of scarier side effects went away. When I did have my follow-up appointment, my doctor said I did the right thing by not bumping up and continuing to go higher. She said sometimes your body just can't, sometimes it's just too much like at one time. So I did the right thing. And she said once I feel comfortable, I can bump up to 75 if I want, and then eventually to 100. She did say 100 milligrams is the ideal dosage for me to prevent my migraines. But right now, this is 3 months later, and I am actually still at 50 milligrams. So I have not bumped up yet. She did say it would not be as big of a shock for my body now that I'm stable at 50 milligrams. So she thinks the side effects would pretty much be non-existent or minimal. But because I have been feeling good at this milligram dosage, I haven't bumped up yet, and I'm not sure if I'm going to or when I will. So that's why I thought I would make a video kind of just describing this experience, because I know a lot of people, you know, you obviously want to follow the directions from your doctor, but sometimes you have to advocate for yourself too, and you kind of know what's right. So I knew that I just did not feel right, and so some people might just give up right away, which is completely fine. You have to make the best choice for you, but I felt like I wasn't ready to give up yet. I just wanted to stay at this dosage, and so far so good. I actually just reached the 90-day mark, and I have not had a single migraine in 90 days. Starting this medication, I think the last time I went 3 months without a migraine, it was probably early 2020, I think. So the longest I've ever gone was like a 6-month streak a couple years back, but for the most part I would get at least 1 to 2 a month, which did have to do with hormones. But when you experience this, 1 is just more than enough, because like I said, you can't really plan for it. It takes you out of your life, your work, extracurriculars, and with my wedding coming up later in 2021, I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything to prevent them, because that would be the worst thing ever. Another side effect, I would say, the only other thing I've noticed is every once in a while I might have like a slight trouble kind of coming up with the word I'm trying to say. So like every once in a while I might be trying to say something and it just takes me like a second longer for me to come up with what I'm trying to say. It's like, you know, when you have something like on the tip of your tongue and you just can't quite say it, that's kind of the same feeling, but it doesn't happen often and it's not an everyday occurrence. I know a lot of people have said, especially in like the migraine support groups I'm in, that it completely turns them into a zombie. They forget a lot of things, might have like shorter term memory loss. But again, I've just stayed at the 50 milligram dosage, and my neurologist told me that that is okay, and I can only bump up when I'm ready. So I did have an MRI done just to make sure everything was okay there. I had that done a couple months ago, and that actually came back clear. For the most part, I had a couple very, very small white lesions on my brain, which if you're a migraine sufferer, which you probably are if you're watching this, that's actually pretty common from what I've been told and researched. It's sometimes they say it's evidence of just having a migraine. My neurologist said it's just part of aging sometimes too. Just like your blood vessels eventually just have very, very small damage or aging, and so it shows up as white spots on your brain, and I only had like 2 very, very small ones. Other than that, I also experienced visual snow. So I kind of always see like little speckles like in my vision too, so I know that's kind of weird, like if you don't experience. So let me know if you're a migraine sufferer and you also have visual snow. I'm also in a Facebook group about that. So it's sometimes just really strange trying to like describe to other people what I'm experiencing and seeing and feeling like I'm not normal. So I guess I kind of was assuming there was going to be something wrong with my brain, but there's not. My vision tests have come back normal, my eye pressure test and everything. Sometimes I almost see like a persistent aura in my vision too. I see floaters, and then I have the migraine with aura every once in a while too. That's where I'm sitting at right now. It's been 90 days and no migraine since then, so I am happy with it for now. Obviously, I don't really want to have to be on medication forever, so I hope I don't have to be. And I really don't even want to have to bump up any higher if I don't have to. But I do sometimes, like I said, still see a little bit of an aura like in my vision constantly, especially like if I'm outside looking up at the sky. So sometimes I'm wondering if I have something that's actually called persistent aura without headache. Let me know if you've heard of that. Essentially, it's just like not actually having a headache, but you're still kind of seeing some of those visual disturbances. And so my neurologist did say in order to help with that, she does think I would benefit from bumping up. I just get kind of nervous, especially reading about like the other side effects and stuff. So I'm still kind of undecided what I'm gonna do, so I thought I would just make this video update and let you know where I'm sitting at right now after 90 days of Topamax, and then I will for sure make another update video if I do bump up, or I'll probably do like a 6-month update instead. So I would definitely like to know if you have migraine with aura, because from a lot of my research that I've done, I haven't seen a lot of people that have aura that have tried this medication. It's been a lot of the chronic migraine sufferers. So I would love to know if you have migraine with aura and what some of your symptoms are, if you know what your triggers are, and if you've tried this medication or any other medications. Again, this is just my experience, kind of just like an anecdotal video describing what I've been going through. I am in no way telling you to try this medication, but just telling you how it has worked for me. If this type of video interests you and you want to follow along on my migraine journey, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're interested in reactions and reviews. Other than that, I will see you in my next video.